Anyway, so this is DIFF number 4, right? Yeah. The DIFF Drive Home number 4. And so today was a little different. We went to a panel, and the title exhibition panel, they don't look like they're having fun. Exhibition panel sort of on the state of what? Movie screening, getting movies in theaters.
Yeah, it seemed like this panel was made up of Barack Epstein, who is the program. I don't know his official title, but I always think of him as the program director and kind of the guy who runs the Texas Theater. So, if you, that's how I see him. Anyway, so I mean, he's behind the screenings, behind the advertisements and everything. They had the CEO of Cinépolis, a larger, mostly Mexico-based, it seems like, theater chain. Like I said, we talking about this before, but I think there's only one in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. There's only one that I'm aware of, and it's kind of in the Grapevine, Mid-Cities type, 121 area.
To our UK listeners, you have no idea.
Right. Sorry for pinpointing that. If you want to look it up, it's on Google Maps. You can see it. And then a gentleman named Brandon. I didn't catch his last name, but he works for an organization called Film Frog, who is they help get films distribution.
So like marketing, right?
They're a marketing firm. He also has and owns or runs, or his company partakes in some boutique cinemas. One of them is called Cinema Lab out of New Jersey. So that was the 3 panel, and a very, very solid moderator of that panel asking some really good questions. Mostly, we thought it was more going to be along the lines of how our cinema's doing in 2024.
Yeah. And that's kind of what the synopsis led us to believe as well.
Right.
It's not just me thinking that, right? Okay.
No. That's what I thought as well.
Yeah.
But this seemed like, and it was kind of sparsely attended, but it seemed like this was a discussion along the lines of how, if you were a budding filmmaker or a filmmaker of an independent film or a self-financed film,
or even like a marketer,
right? How do you get your information? How do you get your movie seen by by theaters in order to get it seen by an audience, essentially? And how do you what's the best way about going about doing it? And it seemed the consensus was that you just need to hire a marketer, and hopefully you have enough.
Or find distribution. Yeah.
Hopefully you have enough money to do that. Or
or get picked up by a distributor.
Right. In an hour-long panel, there's not nearly enough time, right? And I don't necessarily know if these 3 gentlemen were all theater-based. I think it would have been interesting to have a streaming option there, like someone who could speak to the streaming experience. I don't think any of those people could, because they were all, again, theater-focused. And they talked a little bit about making their, how they're doing more event-based programming, although I don't believe that to be true for Cinépolis. To be fair, I don't believe that Cinépolis is. He talked about doing like wine tastings, but
they were like themed kind of movie wine tasting nights. I mean, it wasn't just like.
Right. I don't think that's their bread and butter.
No.
Right? I mean, like if you go to some place like Alamo, they have their parties, they have their repertory screenings that are all focused every single month.
Yeah.
Texas Theater has screenings that are tied into live performances. Sometimes, that's kind of the thing. One of the things that they focus on. I feel like Cinépolis, and we talked about this as well, but Cinépolis is a little out of place in this because they're such a huge brand.
Right.
And so talking to Barack, who works and directs a 2-screen theater, and then talking to someone who's a marketing director who is trying to kind of foster those types of tie-ins to help smaller films get distribution. It seemed like there was a kind of a disconnect between what all 3 of them were doing.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we kind of had to extrapolate the overlaps, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, I think the most interesting thing for me out of that conversation is that if you're an independent filmmaker, cross your fingers and hope you get picked up by A24 or Neon. I would say, and this wasn't explicitly stated, but like, I would say you're submitting to as many film festivals as you possibly can.
Yep.
And hoping to get your film in front of the right person so you can start having those, here's where this film played, right? And like, I can put that in the trailer. It played at DIFF, it played at TIFF, it played at Oak Cliff, it played Fantastic Fest or South by Southwest.
Anything.
Yeah, right. Name them all. You're trying to get it in front of those people. And if you don't, well, good luck to you. I would say you probably you probably need to figure out a way to have someone create a Blu-ray for you and sell it at conventions, or sell it on your website, and hope you can find the ability to connect directly with fans. But I mean, so someone from the Austin Film Society was there and basically asked the question, if your film is not getting picked up by what is considered right now a lower or middle tier distribution house, which would be your Neons and your A24s, which to us kind of, you and I probably sound pretty big.
I know, right.
Like, so, and I guess Barack also mentioned like IFC, right?
Yeah.
So IFC and Shudder, which would be, I think, a step below.
Right.
A24 and Neon. If you're not getting those, that recognition, I'm not sure there's an outlet for you, right? I mean, maybe you try to get on Fandor or another streaming service, but there was nobody really there to talk to that.
No, and they kind of brought it up, right? Where, I think Barack answered that guy's question from the Austin Film Society kind of by saying, what you do is you get different sort of representation for different sort of different sort of avenues. So you find someone to try and handle the streaming. You find someone to try and handle, the four-walling aspect, or getting stuff into smaller theaters or whatever.
Leading into the next thing we're going to talk about, we've kind of made friends with. I met this guy a few times, and of course, he's doing a ton of meeting with people, so he wouldn't have remembered me. We weren't like close, right? But I met him a few times. This one, we're talking about an actor named Todd Jenkins, who's recognizable. You probably have seen him in a few things, but a few years prior to COVID, I believe, they had put out an independently produced horror comedy called Cherokee Creek. Sasquatch comedy, bloody, gory, sexy.
The ultimate party animal.
and it's a fun, silly, see it high or drunk with your friends kind of movie. That's basically what it is. And they four-walled it, which basically, if four-walling means you rent out a theater, you rent out a space to show your film.
But you still charge admission for it. You get in the theater, and then that could lead to something else, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So the four-walling aspect of it is to prove to the theater owners that the film has legs, that you're willing to back it, you're willing to come out and speak to it, make a party around it. When they did the Cherokee Creek stuff, they actually hired a stand-up comedian to come out and like warm up the crowd before the movie. They were all there. The film kind of starts off breaking the fourth wall a little bit too. So it's just a silly, fun time. I mean, but also they did a hell of a lot of self-promotion. Sold tickets through their own website, sold merch, had posters available, all that kind of stuff. So the idea of you being able to kind of distribute it that way, and they actually did a screening at the Granbury Theater. They come out and they take pictures with fans, and they'll go to Texas Frightmare and walk the floor and sell their Blu-ray and sign
out of a backpack. Right. Yeah.
Todd will sign it right there, take a selfie with you, and so to that extent, I mean, like, I think the problem with doing that is you have a narrow genre of films that are capable of kind of generating that kind of, like, you're not going to do that with the Merchant Ivory and stuff.
No, right.
You know, you're not going to do that with
But here's a question, because didn't Cassavetes do a lot of this?
Sure, right. And it nearly killed him. I mean, so...
No. Yeah, no, but I mean, like, but I was just going to say, like, to your point, right?
Right,
is that even then, right, he kind of did that to gain distribution from the bigger studios.
Right.
Yeah. So, you know, he was using it as a ploy to get more distribution, I mean, so even a filmmaker like that, it takes so much energy and so much work, right? And like you said, these other genres will play better for that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things, what I again would have liked the panel to kind of delve into is that there aren't thousands. There aren't 1,000 screens of, like, the Texas Theater, right?
Right.
There's probably 100 Texas theaters throughout the United States. If there's 2 per state, I'd be shocked.
Yeah, I'd be really shocked.
You probably have them in your major metropolitan areas, cities over 300,000, or metropolitan areas at around 1 million. But I mean, like, even then.
Yeah, but not all the same. I mean, so you'll have several in New York, right? Several in Los Angeles, but you'll have one in Dallas.
One in Dallas.
A couple in Chicago.
Yes, the Cherokee Creek guys did 4-wall the Angelica. That's where I first saw it. And they had a couple of nights they were showing, and that they rented out Theater 5, which is the biggest theater at the Angelica, as far as I know, anyway. I don't necessarily know exactly how well they did, but it was relatively well attended as far as I could, when I was there. But yeah, I mean, like, it's I don't know what you do if you're not associated or don't have the money to kind of personally back your film, right?
Yeah.
Does it become something you've just done and hope against hope that you can get it into one of the streaming services?
You pat yourself on the back for doing it. I mean,
well, I mean, maybe. I mean, I just mean, like, right. No, and there's no good, like, these days, like, before, when you were in the VHS era, you could go around to conventions and just shop this thing out of the back of your car.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like, you could go to mom and pop video stores and sell a shot on video movie and give them 20 copies or whatever, right? I mean, like, and then have them use those to rent them out. So you're selling them for probably $50 to $100 a pop. Yeah. And you can make you can make as many VHS copies as you need to, as long as you can print out the box art and, pop the tab on the VHS tape. Nowadays, like, I don't
put the title in Sharpie.
right. Print out a label and
do not record over.
Be kind, rewind, and then. But yeah, I don't know. Like, these days, like, I know it's not cost prohibitive to make yourself your own Blu-ray or put that out, but is it? But do you have the ability to, like, do all of that, right? I mean, like, even though it's I don't necessarily know if it's, like, ridiculously difficult. You still have to have someone master the Blu-ray, put together the menus, put together the chapter stops. All of that stuff takes
it's
a different skill set than what.
And this is just after you spent. I mean, what did you just, like, self-finance the movie as well? I mean, so there's all of that too. I mean, forget about the time and energy of making the movie, but yeah, where did the production money come from? And so then you have to go and, like, basically distribute it yourself as well.
Yeah. So good luck, young filmmakers out there.
Well, back to Todd. He said something as we were talking. He's like, the hardest thing in this business is to get someone to press play.
Right.
And I thought that really kind of linked in to the idea in that panel, right? And what you were just talking about is, how do you get people to watch this? How do you get people to pay attention? And I mean, this idea is not unique to the film world, right? I mean, the hardest thing as a writer is to get someone to fucking read your work. Right? It's just like just getting someone to look at it. Or as an artist, right? Getting someone to...
Or podcasters even.
Or a podcaster. Getting someone to press play and then listen to your podcast. Like your very well thought out, articulate ideas.
Right.
On lots of different things.
Highly
not just
intelligent
movies.
and original ideas that we're pushing out every single episode.
Every high quality content, right? I mean, yes, I have bloody knuckles from working so hard on this.
Right.
We're putting miles and miles into this.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. And I also wonder, like, you know, weirdly enough, does like torrenting like hurt? I know it hurts probably independent film like that.
Yeah.
But ultimately, though, if you weren't going to make any money off of, would you even like just decide to torrent your own, like put together your own torrent?
Yeah.
And just to give it away for free so people will eventually see it, and hopefully that leads to the next thing. Hopefully that leads to somebody, you know, picking you up as a DP somewhere, or you can kind of build your way up.
You know, this, I'm a little surprised that the giving stuff away for free didn't, this is going to sound, I don't know, kind of flippant, but maybe didn't take off more when like Radiohead did it.
Right.
Right when they gave away In Rainbows.
Or that was a pay what you want,
well,
right?
but you could pay zero.
Sure.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, so, but, and I just mean like, because I think that could have had an effect where these guys who have made a ton of money already, right, are like, okay, that's enough, like, here.
Right.
And that could then open the door to smaller artists being signed to labels and being sold, etc., right? And of course, maybe that's just wishful thinking on my part. Or,
right.
or wishful sort of projecting on my part. But, you know, I wonder if that could have led to something.
Yeah, I don't know.
I
I mean, like you said, I mean, like getting a film made at all is an accomplishment, right? Short film, long form film, any of it. So obviously, I think everyone can take pride in doing that particular piece of it, but
pride don't pay the bills.
But pride don't pay no bills. And so, but yeah, I mean, I think like the hustle is got to be exhausting, and we know local filmmakers who have been trying to get their own short films and series off the ground for quite some time, and it's just I applaud them, and I can only imagine how rough it is to travel around to all of these festivals if you do get in.
Yeah.
And when you don't get it, I mean, like, there's a ton of different festivals, right? So you're going to probably get into some of them, if not all of them, right? But yeah, I guess you got to just keep on pushing.
But and again, I think, and this applies to all artistic endeavors, right? I mean, how many? Here, I'll use my own experience, right? I mean, how many writers self-pay for research trips, right? To go look at things that you need to go do to sort of, I want to write this piece of work that you can't just, you know, make up, because then someone will call you out on it.
Right.
Right. So yeah, it's everybody just keep, you know what, keep hustling. Don't pay the bills. It'll be fine. Just keep making.
Just keep making art.
Just there you go. Just
keep on arting.
Always
be arting.
Always
ABA.
be arting. That coffee's for arters.
Coffee's for filmmakers.
That's right.
All right, let's talk about what we have to talk about.
Okay.
And all apologies to Todd.
Yeah.
Who was actually wonderful in this movie that we're going to talk about.
Right, he was. And a lot of that was, I believe, his own sort of additions to the script.
Okay, so we saw Harsh Treatment today, which the title makes no sense.
I know.
Which, let's just, okay, so this is
like Bad Luck?
This is a Texas film, and I think it was filmed in and around DFW area.
Okay.
Because it's got Barry Corbin. Barry Corbin's a Fort Worth guy.
He doesn't travel very far.
Well, I can't imagine he's doing a ton of traveling, right? He's an older man. I mean, he's awesome, but I mean, you know, he's an older dude.
Right.
So I would imagine his, like, flying and jet setting days are probably behind him. Maybe not. I don't know. but I'm just guessing. So this is a Western comedy gore fest in a way.
Yeah.
How weird is it that we've seen 2 films that have been using like ropes and like logging hooks?
Yeah,
as
that's
bad guys?
right. That's right.
So in a Violent
Nature did the same thing. I know. I'm watching that, going, wow, that was the same trick that we saw in that other film.
So we start the movie off. I'm gonna a brief synopsis. Our 2 heroes of the film are 2 hapless criminals who were part of a gang who were stealing keepsakes, or they were stealing like stored treasures from this mercantile.
Right, this guy was basically had his own sort of like safety deposit box.
In the Old West, and this gang.
I mean, it was like, here, leave your money with me, and I'll keep it locked up in a box for you.
And the guy from Breaking Bad was in it. The Hispanic DEA agent that worked with Walt's brother-in-law.
Oh,
that's where he was from.
Okay.
They stole it, and then there are all these bad guys that are after it because
Big Bad.
Right. This never made any sense to me. They discarded so the big bads discarded the amulet, but that's what they wanted all along. Why would they have discarded the amulet?
Well, how did the amulet get into the safety deposit box in the first place?
I don't have any fucking clue. So the whole
because like the big bad had never seen it before. So like, who put it in there?
So it turns out they were robbing. Well, I guess. Yeah. Okay. So everyone was going to. They were all coming for it, I guess. Okay, so the people who robbed it, the guy from Breaking Bad who stole it, didn't know he was stealing an amulet. Okay,
right.
Fine.
He just wanted
money. So he discards after he finds some money and he discards the amulet. But also there are these this Confederate general who's got a gang of ruffians.
Colonel.
He's
a colonel.
Right, a Confederate colonel who's got a gang of ruffians that are going to steal this amulet for some unknown nefarious reason, like because he's never seen indigenous people be scared unless they're around the amulet. And then there's this indigenous person who actually owns is
looking for the amulet.
Looking for the amulet because it actually belongs to him.
Yeah.
And that's the story.
But and like, is he like a crime lord, like a local crime lord kind of thing? I mean, I don't really know. Everyone's scared of him, but.
And our friend Todd is part of the Confederacy bad guy group. And the Confederacy's thrown about. It's not like this is Civil War era. There's not a lot of like social commentary in this movie about that. But the movie it portrays itself as a comedy but it's such broad strokes.
Yeah.
Like it's a slapstick comedy. And I will say that the straight man Earl, I thought was actually pretty good. I don't think he was funny, but I thought his acting was fine.
Yeah.
Everyone else was kind of amateurish in a sense. Not Todd, of course.
Right. Todd was good.
And I will always say that not everybody. I mean, Barry Corbin, the guy from Breaking Bad. A handful and like even the other Earl, they were cousins, both named Earl.
Was it Merle and Earl or Earl and Earl?
I thought it was Earl and Earl. Maybe it was Merle. I don't know. I stopped listening to a lot of it. Like I was checking my watch multiple times through the movie, and we'd only gotten. Here's the problem with these. And I find myself like doing this, and it's bad. I've got to stop because I look at the runtime of films and I'm like, oh shit! Well, all these plot points have to wrap up, and this is not just about the movies that we've seen at the DIFF. It's about everything
in general, right?
But at DIFF, I never know when the movies start because there's like I'm not paying attention to when the introduction ends or when they're
right.
So I was like, shit! Did we go off at 9:45? Because then I can we'll be done by 11:15. I'm just I was waiting for this to be over before it hit the hour mark, and I'm like, really, the first 10 minutes,
you knew what you were in for.
It was just bad. It doesn't look good either. It looks like It looks like it was shot like on video, kind of like not like grainy, but like the lighting is all off. It just looks at you can tell between an amateur production and a more slick professional production. And then the worst part of the film for me was the music. Like it was all sitcom-y, like it was country kind of like. It was all instrumental, of course.
Kind of like hee-haw-ish.
Right. It was all hee-haw. That's a perfect. That's the perfect description for it. Because, like, one, it was way too loud. All of the beats were then tied into like the music to make you feel or evoke a certain thing, feeling from you. Oh God, this was awful.
I know.
And the plot, and look, this is the whole thing. The amulets, as a red herring, and like we're just walking from to and fro. But
it's our MacGuffin,
right? But we're so, it's such low budget that you are clearly walking around like from in the same 100 yards, right?
Yeah.
The saloon is, and that all of that can be forgiven to a certain extent, but there was just nothing interesting, and then. The comedy, like it takes a lot. Look, this is like an Ernest Goes to Camp, but it's not even as like it's not even as earnest as an Ernest film, right? It doesn't like this doesn't play for kids, but this is comedy that's like I've never seen anything like this, like that's this silly, and then also this weirdly bloody and violent.
Yeah.
Like this is not even like Drive-Away Dolls. You know what I'm saying? Like where it's like
Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
They don't do it like that though. Because that's genuinely funny. Like
no. I was just saying,
but I mean, it's like, but that's the thing is that there's a subtle difference between being able to like. I always felt the characters in this movie knew they were in a comedy, right? They were always trying to be funny. This was a Three Stooges episode, right? And Tucker and Dale were just like bumbling fools that kept finding themselves in situations that were ridiculous but were plausible to the plot that we were watching, right?
right.
So yeah, when they're in the truck and they're getting pulled over by the cop and Dale is shirtless and they're like just trying to go up to the cabin to get a little man time, and like it's just that's funny, right? I mean that's just good comedy.
Right.
This is a guy walking silly, like he's all like and
he's all gangly legged.
And a lot of and I think I said the music again still like really hurts it, but like there's just like ridiculous close-ups. The way that the film is shot is all over the place. There was a Q&A that Brock and I decided to skip out on because it was late. It's almost midnight.
It's midnight.
Now.
It is midnight.
It's on a school night, and we've got 2 more nights of this.
This is true. We have a meeting in the morning.
We have a meeting in the morning. So it's just it was rough to say the least.
Yeah, I was sad that it was rough. I think there is, like you said, you can forgive a lot of that stuff, but I think the film has to kind of have more of a direction, right? Or more of a kind of understanding of what it really is. And I didn't think that it...
Yeah, no, this is Hidden Fortress, right? This is like, I mean, like these guys are R2-D2 and C-3PO.
Yeah.
And they should be looking for the plans to the Death Star, and they've got all of these competing forces that should also be looking for the plans for the Death Star.
I like that you just compared this to Hidden Fortress. Jesus.
That'll be on the poster. Harsh treatment is no Hidden Fortress. Or, harsh treatment should be like
the Wilhelm scream. Yeah,
right. That was the best part of this movie were the credits. Was the like super bad-esque like guys in relief, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just bad. Like it's I don't know. I don't understand. Like it just seemed like they had seen a bunch of independently shot films and said, okay, well we'll take that and we'll do this. The over-the-top gore makes no sense in this movie whatsoever.
Right.
Like if you're going to be a silly comedy, just be a fucking silly comedy then.
Right.
Like, I mean, at least commit to the bit, right? Make
Right.
everybody kind of
Over the top.
Yeah, over the top and pseudo into the joke, right? I mean, like, make your Confederate colonel, it's just some larger-than-life Texas swilling, just like, mustachioed jerk.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Make your indigenous hero, practically a ninja, right? I mean, make them
Right.
like where they're just
invincible.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you have cool henchmen that do cool henchman things, but I don't think you need to have gut-busting gore in this, and it just seemed out of place. And also, you just need to be funny. Like, if you're
fun.
so either do one or the other, right?
Right.
Like, make this a super serious,
Gore fest.
like crime drama gore fest, or make this a super silly, fun time comedy gang movie, right? I mean, like
The Apple Dumpling Day?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
Like, make this if your sentiment is to make this a like I said, an earnest movie, then make an earnest movie. It doesn't. You just don't have. You can't do both, and especially if you don't do any of them well.
Right. Yeah, like you said about sort of seeing a bunch of different independent films and then sort of cribbing off of that. That was kind of the vibe I got. Was it I don't know, tropey is not the right word, but kind of, right? I think there's a lot of cliches there's a lot of independent film cliches now, right?
Right, yeah.
Where you're like, oh, the camera's... And I think there was a lot of that there. And, it's just... I don't know.
Yeah,
Should have been better.
Well,
or
and I
could
mean,
have been better.
I find it odd that this was a selection for the festival. Like, because usually you find, like, interesting misses, and I don't feel like this is one of them, right? I don't feel like... This feels like someone would have watched this and said, I don't think this belongs in our festival here.
Right.
If this was, like I said, if this was a miss and it was just the comedy, right? Or if this was a miss and it was just the gore, I could understand it. Because if you go look at something like In a Violent Nature, which for us was a miss,
right?
I understand. Well, then that one's slicker than this, of course.
But there was that idea there, right?
Right.
There was an interesting idea there that maybe didn't fully work, but it was a good miss. Is that? I mean,
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I think In a Violent Nature, there are going to be people who love that film. I think there are going to be people who are just that are okay with the meandering, and they're okay with the slowness, and just really like dive
once that's on Shudder,
dive into the mythology and like really love it.
Yeah.
This is never going to go anywhere. I mean, like, there's just like, even with Corbin and some bigger name actors, this is going to be one, and Todd Jenkins, who. I mean, I'm looking at and again, this is a credit to Todd, and of course we like him, so this is, obviously, we're biased in a sense, but I'm looking at every other role, and I'm thinking you should have just put Todd in, like, any of these roles.
No, right. No, you're not wrong. You're really not wrong.
I mean, just give Todd the bigger role here.
Because he could have easily played Earl or Merle and Earl.
Yeah.
I mean, right?
Right. Or the Colonel, or even the bigger rolled other bad guy, right?
Who he kind of resembled anyway.
Yeah.
I'm with you, but I don't think the movie can make up its mind what it wanted it to be, or what it thought it wanted to be.
No.
Right.
No. And like I said, the good news for you listeners is that you'll never hear of it again, most likely. So. And for you Barry Corbin completists out there, you may have a hard time finding this one post. Like, this doesn't go anywhere, right? I mean, like, am I wrong in here? I just can't imagine it getting distribution. I can't imagine. One, it is so. It looks too amateurish, right? If it had a better sheen to it, and just was shot better, then maybe.
Like, I really hate saying that too. I really I take no. I don't know how you feel, right? But no. But I take
as jubilant as I sound about being on a podcast.
Well,
yes,
and I'm sitting there watching it, going like, "Well, this doesn't sound very good." And I know that we don't sound very good because we're in a car right now. But
right.
but I think we sound usually better than this. But I'm like, it didn't sound very good. The lighting was off, right? A lot of times.
Yeah.
I mean, it could, and that's what I'm just like. I hated thinking that as I was watching it.
Right.
Because I don't want to sit here and, as we just told people to keep arting, right? The coffee is for arters. That I feel bad for it being like, well, that looked awful. That sounded awful. But, sometimes
art's bad.
Right. You're right. Yeah.
And look, if we want to be fair, again, I don't necessarily know if the crowd was packed with friendlies, but there were a lot of people that seemed to be enjoying the comedy, and seemed to be having a good time. I don't necessarily know if they knew everybody in the movie or if they were legitimately enjoying the film, which makes it seem like people would legitimately enjoy this, and I just don't see that being the case.
I don't either.
This is not something that I'm trying to equate it to something that's already on television, or there's something that's similar. This is not even Home Improvement or Big Bang Theory or things that people can
or Briscoe County.
Right. Or Walker Texas Ranger or
it's like a funny version of Texas Walker Texas Walker Ranger.
Yes.
Walker Texas Ranger.
I hope all this is a stepping stone for everyone except for the directors, which I don't. I hope that they find a way to make a better movie next. But this didn't work for me at all. So.
No, me either, unfortunately. And I do like a good Western, but
do you?
I think so most of the time. Yeah.
It's not a genre that I'm going to go to very often.
Well, I'm not going to seek them out, but I'm always interested to see if someone's doing a Western, what are they doing, right? And what kind of new spin are we putting on the Western? Are we deconstructing the Western? Are we doing a neo-Western? Are we doing a Western that represents? I don't know. Here's the thing though, you mentioned that this film could have been a dead serious gore fest, and it just made me think of Bone Tomahawk, which I fucking hate. I hate that guy's films.
Yeah, you don't like Brawl and Cell Block 99?
I hate that. I just look. I don't. No, I don't know. And I think his films are so packed with nihilism, and I just hate nihilism.
Sure.
It reminds me of. Did you ever see The Counselor? I'm
Probably,
sure you did.
yeah,
with Fassbender.
Oh yeah.
And but that film again is just it's full of just violence and nihilism just for the sake of violence and nihilism.
Right.
It's doing nothing to serve the film. That's how I feel about Bone Tomahawk. Because all of that stuff doesn't do anything to serve and I don't know what Matthew Fox is doing in that movie. Good God, man.
What I mean?
He's it's like he used the same accent in the movie where he plays the assassin with Alex Cross, the Alex Cross movie, right? Where he's in.
Look, can we just say that Matthew Fox had two good roles in his life?
Party of Five and Lost.
Yeah. And at that point, we should have stopped trying to make Matthew Fox happen.
Yeah.
He'd already did it. He done did it. He made two seminal TV shows.
And then when he was in that movie, Vantage Point with Dennis Quaid, right?
Yeah, I guess so. And then he was in We Are Marshall, where the Marshall football team crashed and they all ate each other in the Andes.
Yeah. What is it like there? How many stories about sports teams crashing in the Andes and meeting each other do we have? I find it weird that we have multiple real life stories.
We Are Marshall, Remember the Titans, Alive, Rocky 4,
Radio.
Radio.
And A League of Their Own.
Right, A League of Their Own.
That's it.
So, I think that might be the last. Oh, and then Mighty Ducks 2. Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That was.
Mighty Ducks 2, Duck Confit.
Oh, if only like we need a sequel to Radio where he turns into a cannibal. But also the same poster where he's riding his bike with his arms up in the air. Simple jacking it all up. Oh, fuck. Yeah, so... so maybe Matthew Fox can star in Harsh Treatment too. I don't know. Alex Cross was one of the worst movies.
That was terrible.
God. But hey, he was cut like a fucking.
He was, man.
Brick shithouse. Did we make brick shithouses anymore?
Not in Texas. No.
You gotta go.
No,
you gotta go.
You have to go to a
East
different
Coast
spot. Yeah. Do you ever wonder like what it takes to look like Matthew Fox did in that movie? And then you're like,
starvation.
Oh my God, like never. Okay, like never.
Yeah,
mind.
there's no.
Like you see that and you're like, I want to look like that, and then you're like, no, wait, no, I not if I have to go through all that. Never mind.
No, because it's a brief period in time, right? It's
because you can't maintain it.
No, you're either a meth addict and who also works
abs.
out a lot.
Yeah. Well, I guess you probably like would have the energy.
Right. You're just taking weights off and on the bar. But yeah, I mean, like you've seen pictures of like Vin Diesel on vacation, or like when he's actually like you can't, and no, you have to get paid to do that kind of stuff. You have to it has to be part of your job. Yes, you can look great, but no one's maintaining starvation level abs.
Not for that long.
No, unless you're like someone like, and again, it also helps to have great genetics, but like someone like Gosling or something like that. And again, even then, I think you're still probably enhancing the abs when they're showing up on screen. I mean, like, you just can't maintain.
I put makeup on mine.
I did too. Did you ever see Meet the Spartans? I know you didn't.
No.
It was one of those Friedberg Seltzer films, and I know those not their exact names. And those guys set back filmmaking worse than Harsh Treatment did. Like for decades they set it back, and they definitely set back the parody film. They killed the parody film.
Yeah.
And all those films were shitty. But in Meet the Spartans, there was one kind of like normal-looking guy, and of course they made him to be chubby. I mean, of course, when I say normal, I mean just normal like every. But anyway, he painted his abs on, and I thought that was pretty funny actually.
That is funny.
But yeah. So all right. So we'll be back tomorrow with
we got a couple
two movies
tomorrow. Yeah.
And then on Thursday we'll have one more movie with Diff and maybe another movie that we'll see, but we'll probably hold off on talking about it because we're just focusing on Diff. And then we'll just do a wrap up of like our overall thoughts and on the festival. But until tomorrow, folks.
Yeah. Talk to you later. Bye.
You have been listening to Why Does the Wilhelm Scream with your hosts, Brock and Jason. If you liked today's episode, do us a favor and rate, review, and subscribe in whatever application you use to consume podcasts these days. You can reach us by visiting whydoesthewilhelmscream.com. If you are in the DFW area, we would love to see you at a Fort Worth Film Club event. You can learn more about those and find a full schedule at fortworthfilmclub.com. And you can learn about my foundation and how we are trying to foster the next generation of film lovers at realhousefoundation.org. That's REEL housefoundation.org. Till next time,